The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and light that orbited a dead world. Inside, 47 different species sat in their designated seats, each one representing a civilization that had ruled the galaxy for longer than humans had existed. The air was thick with tension as Commander Ji-won Kim stood alone in the center of the circular room. She was small compared to most of the beings around her. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple tie, and she wore the gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Her face showed no fear, even though every alien eye in the room was fixed on her with something between anger and disgust. High Arbiter Velthos rose from his seat. He was an insectoid creature, tall and covered in a black shell that gleamed under the chamber lights. His multiple eyes focused on Ji-won as his mandibles clicked together, translating into words through the chamber's systems. "Human," Velthos said, his voice echoing through the vast space. "The Council has spoken. Your species will cease all expansion into the Outer Rim territories immediately. You have 72 hours to recall your colony ships and withdraw from the disputed sectors." Ji-won clasped her hands behind her back. Behind her stood Lieutenant Minho Park, her security officer, but she had told him to stay silent no matter what happened. This was her burden to carry. "With respect, High Arbiter," Ji-won said clearly, "humanity declines your ultimatum." The chamber erupted. Dozens of voices shouted at once, translated into a chaos of anger and disbelief. Councillor Rathkor, a massive reptilian creature with red scales and yellow eyes, slammed his clawed hand on his desk. "Declines?" Rathkor roared. "No species has ever declined a council decree. You humans have been in space for barely 3 centuries, and you dare to defy us?" Ji-won kept her voice steady. "Our colony ships left Earth months ago. They carry families, children, people looking for new homes. We cannot recall them. They are already too far into their journeys, and their course is set." "Then you will order them to turn back," Velthos said, his tone growing cold. "Or you will face consequences that no human can imagine." Ji-won looked around the chamber. She saw fear in some of the councilors' faces hidden behind their anger. That interested her. What were they afraid of? "The Outer Rim territories are unclaimed space," Ji-won continued. "No council species has settled there in over 50,000 years. Humanity is simply filling an empty void. We are not taking anyone's worlds." A councilor made of crystal and light spoke in a voice like wind chimes. "The Outer Rim was declared forbidden for a reason, human. Those sectors are dangerous." "Then why do you care if we go there?" Ji-won asked. Rathkor stood up, his full height nearly 3 times that of a human. "Because you spread like a plague. In 300 years you have claimed 400 worlds. You breed too fast, you expand too quickly, and you respect no boundaries." Minho shifted slightly behind Ji-won, his hand moving closer to his sidearm. Ji-won raised her hand just a fraction, and he stopped. "We respect the boundaries of claimed territory," Ji-won said. "We have never settled a world that belonged to another species. We have followed every law the Council has established. Our only crime is growing." Velthos leaned forward. "Your crime is arrogance. You act as though you are equals to species that were crossing the stars when your ancestors were still living in caves. You show no humility, no respect." "We show respect to those who earn it," Ji-won replied. "But we will not stop being human just because it makes you uncomfortable." The chamber fell silent. Even Rathkor seemed shocked by her words. Elder Koran, an ancient crystalline being who had not moved or spoken since the session began, turned his faceted head slightly toward Ji-won. She felt his attention on her like a physical weight. Velthos straightened. "Then the Council has no choice. We gave you an opportunity to comply peacefully. You have refused." "What will you do?" Ji-won asked. "Declare war on humanity? Your own laws forbid it unless we attack first. We will not need war, Velthos said quietly. We will simply remind you of your place in this galaxy. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, showing a massive structure near the galactic core. It looked like a weapon, all angles and dark metal, surrounding what appeared to be a collapsed star. Behold the nullifier, Velthos announced, the ancient weapon that has kept peace in this galaxy for 200,000 years. It was built by the first council races, powered by a captive black hole, and it has only been fired once in all of recorded history. Jiwan studied the image. She had read about this in the restricted files, but seeing it was different. The structure was enormous, easily the size of a small moon. What happened when you fired it? She asked. Rathkor's voice was filled with satisfaction. We erased the progenitors from existence. They were a species much like yours, human, arrogant, expanding, refusing to accept their place. We gave them the same warning we gave you. They refused, so we activated the nullifier and aimed it at their homeworld. What did it do? Jiwan asked, though she suspected she already knew. It converted their entire star system into radiation, Velthos said. Their sun, their planets, their people. All of it became light and heat, and then nothing. It took 6 minutes. No trace of the progenitors remained. Not a monument, not a ship, not a single cell of their biology. They simply ceased to exist. Minho made a small sound behind Jiwan, but she did not react. She kept her eyes on Velthos. You would do that to Earth? She asked. Kill billions of people? We would do that to save the galaxy from another plague species, Rathkor said. Yes. Velthos raised a hand. But we are not monsters. We will give you the same chance we gave the progenitors. You have 72 hours to evacuate Earth. We will not target your colonies, only your homeworld. Once Earth is gone, humanity will understand its place. You will be scattered, broken, and humble. And then you will obey. Jiwan felt her heart pounding in her chest, but she kept her face calm. You think destroying Earth will make us obey you? It will make you survivors, Velthos said, and survivors do what they must to live. The council voted. One by one, each species raised their symbol of approval. Even those who looked uncomfortable voted yes. The decision was unanimous. The nullifier would fire in 72 hours. Jiwan took a slow breath. Then I have nothing more to say here. You may return to Earth, Velthos said. Use your time wisely. Save who you can. Jiwan turned and walked toward the exit, Minho following close behind. As they reached the door, Elder Koran spoke for the first time, his voice like stones grinding together. Commander Kim. Jiwan stopped and looked back. The ancient being's many facets glittered. Do you understand what you have done? I do, Jiwan said. I have refused to let fear control humanity's future. Fear is wisdom, Koran said. The progenitors learned that too late. Jiwan met his gaze. Then I suppose we will see if history repeats itself. She walked out of the chamber. Behind her, the council began preparations to activate their ancient weapon. Above them all, Elder Koran remained still, his ancient mind remembering things that even the council had forgotten. The countdown had begun. Jiwan's ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel just outside Earth's orbital space. Through the view screen, she could see her homeworld, blue and green and wrapped in white clouds. Somewhere down there was Seoul, the mega-city where she had grown up. Somewhere down there was her family. 72 hours. That was all they had. Ma'am, Minho said from the pilot's seat, Earth Defense is requesting immediate communication. Put them through, Jiwan said. The screen changed to show Admiral Hyunwoo Kang, commander of Earth's defense fleet. He was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many battles. Behind him, Jiwan could see the bridge of his flagship, the Seoul's Pride. Commander Kim, Hyunwoo said. Tell me the council saw reason. They saw nothing but their own fear, Jiwon replied. They are activating the nullifier. We have 72 hours before they fire on Earth. Hyunwoo closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they were hard as steel. Then we fight. With what? Jiwon asked. Admiral, this weapon destroyed the progenitors. It erased an entire civilization. Our weapons cannot stop it. Then we evacuate, Hyunwoo said. Every ship we have, every transport, every vessel that can carry people away from Earth. Jiwon shook her head. We have 11 billion people on Earth. Even if we used every ship in the fleet, we could only evacuate maybe 10 million. The rest would die. The Admiral's face twisted with anger and grief. Then what do you suggest, Commander? That we sit here and wait to die? I suggest we trust our scientists, Jiwon said. I am heading to the Seoul Research Institute now. If there is a defense, they will find it. She ended the transmission and ordered her pilot to take them down to the surface. As they descended through Earth's atmosphere, Jiwon looked out at the world below. Cities glittered like jewels across the continents. Ships moved through the sky. People lived their lives, not knowing that in 3 days it might all be gone. The Research Institute was built into the side of a mountain outside Seoul. Jiwon walked through corridors filled with scientists rushing back and forth, all of them looking terrified and determined at the same time. She found Dr. Yoonji Choi in the main lab, standing in front of a massive holographic display that showed the nullifier. Yoonji was younger than Jiwon, maybe 30 years old, with short black hair and eyes that never stopped moving. She was Earth's chief astrophysicist, and if anyone could find a way to stop the Council's weapon, it was her. Ji-won, Yoonji said without looking away from the display. Tell me you have good news. I have 72 hours, Ji-won said. That is all. Yoonji cursed quietly. Not enough time. Not nearly enough. Ji-won stepped closer to the display. What have you learned? Yoonji gestured at the hologram, and it shifted to show streams of data and calculations. The nullifier channels energy from a captive black hole. It focuses that energy into a beam that can cross hundreds of light years in minutes. When it hits a star system, it does not just destroy it. It converts all matter into pure radiation. Everything just becomes light and heat. Can we stop it? Ji-won asked. No, Yoonji said flatly. We cannot. The energy levels are impossible. Even if we put every shield generator we have into a single field, the beam would punch through it like it was not even there. There is no material in the universe that can withstand that kind of power. Ji-won felt a cold weight settle in her chest. Then Earth is lost. Maybe, Yoonji said, but I have been looking at something interesting. Come here. She pulled up another display, this one showing ancient records. These are transmissions from the progenitor civilization, recovered from dead satellites in the outer galaxy. They knew the nullifier was coming. They prepared for it. But they still died, Ji-won said. Did they? Yoonji asked. Look at this. These are the final transmissions before the weapon fired. The progenitors were not running. They were not begging for mercy. They were conducting experiments. Ji-won leaned closer. The transmissions were in a language long dead, but the translation software did its best. She read words about fields and frequencies and energy manipulation. They were trying to defend themselves, Ji-won said. More than that, Yoonji replied. They were trying to redirect the energy. They theorized that if they could not block the nullifier, they might be able to refract it. Turn it into something harmless. Did it work? Yoonji shook her head. We do not know. The transmission stopped the moment the weapon fired. The Council says the progenitors were erased completely. No survivors, no trace. But what if they are wrong? What if the progenitors succeeded, and the Council just assumed they were dead? That is a big assumption, Ji-won said. It is the only hope we have, Yunji countered. Because I think I know how to do what the progenitors tried. We have been working on zero-point energy field manipulation for the last 5 years. It is new technology, barely tested, but the theory is sound. Jiwon felt a flicker of hope. Explain it to me in simple terms. Yunji smiled grimly. Imagine the nullifier's beam is like a stream of water. We cannot build a wall strong enough to stop it. But we can build a lens that bends it. The zero-point field generators create ripples in space itself. If we calibrate them correctly, those ripples could refract the beam's energy, turn it into visible light instead of destructive radiation. That is theoretical, Jiwon said. Everything is theoretical until we try it, Yunji replied. But there is a problem. We only have 3 zero-point generators and they are experimental. To protect the entire planet, we would need hundreds of them working in perfect synchronization. Jiwon thought for a moment. What about the fleet? Every ship has shield generators. Can we network them together? Yunji's eyes widened. That could work. If we modify every ship's shield array to emit a zero-point frequency and then link them all together in a planet-wide network, we might generate enough of a field to cover Earth. How long would it take? 70 hours, Yunji said. If everything goes perfectly, if we have every engineer in the system working non-stop, if we get lucky. Jiwon pulled out her communicator. Admiral Kang, I need you to order every ship in the fleet to report to orbital stations immediately. We are going to modify their shield systems. Hyunwoo appeared on the small screen. For what purpose? To save Earth, Jiwon said simply. The next 70 hours were the longest of Jiwon's life. She barely slept, barely ate. She moved between the research institute and the orbital stations, watching as thousands of engineers worked on the ships. The entire planet mobilized. Factories that built consumer goods started building shield components. Civilians volunteered to help. Even children carried tools and parts to the workers. Jiwon took a few hours to visit her sister, Mina Lee, who worked at a quantum research facility in Busan. Mina was brilliant, even smarter than Yunji in some ways, but she preferred pure research over practical applications. They sat in Mina's small apartment, drinking tea and not talking about the countdown that everyone could see on their screens. 15 hours left. Do you think it will work? Mina asked quietly. I do not know, Jiwon admitted, but it is our only chance. Mina looked out the window at the city below. I am not afraid, she said. If we die, at least we die as humans, free, unbowed. Jiwon felt tears sting her eyes, but she blinked them away. We are not going to die. Maybe not, Mina said with a small smile. Maybe we will just put on the best light show the galaxy has ever seen. 3 hours before the weapon fired, the last ship came online. Admiral Hyunwoo transmitted to every vessel in orbit. All ships, link your shield generators to the planetary network. Prepare for activation on my mark. Jiwon stood in the Research Institute's control room with Yunji and dozens of other scientists. Through the windows, she could see the night sky filled with stars and ships. The nullifier is charging, Yunji announced. Energy readings are off the scale. It is going to fire in 2 minutes. Jiwon activated her communicator. Admiral, are we ready? As ready as we will ever be, Hyunwoo replied. Jiwon looked at Yunji. Do it. The countdown reached 0. In the depths of space, near the galactic core, the nullifier fired. The beam traveled across the galaxy at nearly the speed of light. It was invisible as it moved through empty space, a column of pure, destructive force that could unmake worlds. In the council chamber, 47 species watched their screens in silence as the weapon crossed the vast distance toward Earth. Velthos sat perfectly still, his compound eyes fixed on the countdown. Rathkor leaned forward in anticipation, his claws drumming against his desk. Only Elder Korin seemed unmoved, his crystalline form reflecting the cold light of the displays. 3 minutes until impact, a technician announced. On Earth, Ji-won stood at the window of the research institute and looked up at the sky. It was night in Seoul, and the stars were bright. Ships hung in orbit like a crown of metal around the planet. Every one of them was linked to the planetary defense network, their shield generators modified to emit the zero-point frequency. Beside her, Yoonji worked at her console, making last-second adjustments. The beam will arrive in 2 minutes. All systems show green. The network is stable. Will it hold? Ji-won asked. Yoonji did not look up from her work. We are about to find out. In orbit, Admiral Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of Seoul's Pride, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, his crew worked in focused silence. Every person knew what was coming. Every person had chosen to stay. Admiral, his sensor officer said, I am detecting massive energy readings approaching from galactic north. It is the beam. Time to impact? 90 seconds. Hyunwoo activated the fleet-wide channel. All ships, activate zero-point field generators on my mark. Link to the planetary network. Route all power to shields. A chorus of confirmations came back to him. Hundreds of ships, all ready to become part of a single defensive field that had never been tested. Sir, the sensor officer said, his voice shaking slightly, the energy readings are beyond anything I have ever seen. If this does not work, it will work, Hyunwoo said firmly. It has to. On the surface, people gathered in the streets. Some prayed, some held their loved ones, some simply looked up at the sky and waited. In Seoul's Central Plaza, a massive crowd had assembled, their faces illuminated by the screens showing the countdown. 30 seconds. Ji-won activated her communicator to the council chamber. She had kept the channel open, and she knew Velthos would be watching. Hi, Arbiter, can you hear me? There was a pause, then Velthos's voice came through. I can hear you, Commander Kim. Have you any final words? Just one question, Ji-won said. Did the progenitors say anything before you fired? Velthos was silent for a moment. They said nothing. They simply waited. Then they were braver than I am, Ji-won replied. Because I have something to say. Then say it quickly, Velthos said. You have 10 seconds. I will say it after, Ji-won said calmly. The beam hit Earth's upper atmosphere. For a single instant, the sky turned white. Every sensor on the planet overloaded. The heat readings spiked to levels that should have ignited the air itself. The Council's weapon, designed to erase civilizations, struck with the force of a dying star. And then the zero-point network activated. Every ship in orbit pulsed with energy. The modified shield generators created ripples in the fabric of space itself, not trying to block the beam but to bend it, to scatter it, to transform it into something harmless. The invisible fields wrapped around Earth like a soap bubble made of folded reality. The beam hit the fields and shattered into a million pieces. But those pieces did not vanish. They remained as visible light, cascading through the atmosphere in waves of color. The sky above Earth erupted in an aurora that stretched from pole to pole. Bands of green and blue and purple and gold danced across the heavens. The light was so bright that night became day, so beautiful that people stopped being afraid and simply stared in wonder. In Seoul's plaza, the crowd gasped as the sky turned into a painting of light. Children pointed upward, their eyes wide. An old woman who had lived through 3 wars began to cry, not from fear, but from the sheer beauty of what she was seeing. The aurora rippled and flowed, changing colors every second. It looked like the sky was breathing, pulsing with life. The deadly radiation had become art. The weapon meant to end, humanity had become a celebration of human survival. In the council chamber, Velthos stood up slowly, his mandibles clicking in confusion. What is happening? Why is Earth still there? The technicians worked frantically at their stations. "Sir, the beam struck the target. We confirm impact, but the energy dispersed. It has been converted into electromagnetic radiation in the visible spectrum." "Visible spectrum?" Rathkor roared. "You mean light?" "Yes, Counselor. Harmless light." Velthos turned to stare at the main display, which showed Earth surrounded by dancing colors. The planet was intact. The cities still glowed. The ships still orbited. Nothing had been destroyed. "This is impossible," Velthos whispered. Jiwan's voice came through the communicator, clear and calm. "Hi, Arbiter, are you watching?" Velthos could not speak. "I asked if you are watching," Jiwan repeated, "because I would hate for you to miss this." On Earth, Jiwan stood on a balcony outside the research institute, looking up at the aurora that covered the entire sky. Behind her, Yunji and her team were cheering, hugging each other, crying with relief. But Jiwan remained calm. She raised her communicator and spoke directly to the council. "Cute light show. Is that all you have got?" The words echoed through the council chamber. Rathkor snarled and smashed his fist down, cracking his desk. Several councilors began shouting. Others sat in stunned silence. Velthos slowly sank back into his seat. "How?" he asked quietly. "How did you survive?" "We learned from the progenitors," Jiwan said. "They left behind records of their final experiments. They tried to refract your weapon. We succeeded where they failed." "That is impossible," Velthos said. "The technology required would be beyond anything humans possess." "You underestimated us," Jiwan replied. "That was your first mistake. Your second was thinking that your ancient weapon made you invincible. Your third was believing we would just accept death." Admiral Hyanwu's voice came over the fleet channel. "All ships, report status." One by one, every vessel confirmed they were undamaged. The zero-point network had held. Not a single ship had been lost. Not a single life had been taken. On the surface, the aurora continued to dance. People poured into the streets, celebrating. Strangers embraced. Music started playing from buildings and vehicles. Seoul erupted into an impromptu festival of life. Mina found Jiwan on the balcony and grabbed her sister in a fierce hug. "You did it! You saved us!" Jiwan hugged her back, finally allowing herself to feel the relief, the joy, the overwhelming sense of victory. "We saved ourselves, all of us together." In orbit, Admiral Hyunwoo allowed himself a rare smile. "Commander Kim," he transmitted, "what are your orders?" Jiwan looked up at the beautiful sky, at the aurora that had once been a weapon meant to kill them all. "Tell the fleet to stand down but remain vigilant, and prepare for my signal." "Signal for what?" Hyunwoo asked. "To show the council what happens when you make humanity angry," Jiwan said softly. She turned back to her communicator where Velthos was still connected. "Hi, Arbiter, are you still there?" "I am here," Velthos said, his voice hollow. "Good," Jiwan said, "because we need to talk about what happens next. You fired your ultimate weapon at us. You tried to commit genocide. And you failed." "What do you want?" Velthos asked. "I want you to understand something," Jiwan said. "Humanity did not ask for this fight. We did not want to be your enemy. All we wanted was to live our lives and grow and explore the galaxy. But you tried to kill us. You tried to erase us from existence." She paused, letting her words sink in. "So now you have a choice," Jiwan continued. "You can acknowledge that humanity is your equal and negotiate with us in good faith. Or you can try to destroy us again and learn that we do not forgive easily." Rathkor's voice cut in. "You dare threaten the Council? You are still just one species among 47. "No," Jiwan said quietly. "We are the species that survived your Doomsday weapon and turned it into a light show. We are the species you should have been afraid of all along. and now you are going to learn what that means." She ended the transmission. Above Earth, the aurora slowly began to fade as the last of the converted energy dispersed into space. But its memory would remain forever in the hearts of every human who had witnessed it. The night the galaxy tried to end them, and they turned death into beauty. The council chamber had descended into chaos. Counselors shouted at each other in dozens of different languages. Some demanded immediate military action against humanity. Others argued for caution. A few sat in shocked silence, trying to understand how their ultimate weapon had failed. Velthos stood at the center of it all, his compound eyes reflecting the pandemonium around him. He had served as High Arbiter for 300 years, and never in that time had he seen the council so divided, so frightened. "Order!" he commanded, his voice amplified through the chamber systems. "I will have order!" Slowly, the shouting died down. Counselors returned to their seats, though anger still burned in many eyes. Rathkor was the first to speak. "We must strike now. Before they have time to prepare, send the fleet, destroy their colonies, show them that survival means nothing if they stand alone." "And if they survive that too?" asked a counselor made of living crystal. "What then? Do we simply keep throwing weapons at them until we run out?" "They got lucky," Rathkor insisted. "They found some progenitor technology and used it once. That does not make them invincible." "Does it not?" The voice came from Elder Korin, who had remained silent throughout the chaos. Now the ancient being rose from his seat, his crystalline body catching the light and scattering it in rainbow patterns. "You speak of luck, Rathkor, but you do not understand what you have witnessed." The chamber fell completely silent. Elder Korin had been part of the council for over 150,000 years. When he spoke, even the most arrogant counselors listened. "Tell us, Elder," Velthos said carefully. "What have we witnessed?" Korin moved to the center of the chamber, his faceted body reflecting everything around him. "You have witnessed history repeating itself. The progenitors did exactly what the humans just did. They refracted the nullifier's beam. They turned destruction into light." Velthos felt something cold settle in his chest. "But the progenitors died. We confirmed it. There were no survivors, no remains, no trace of their civilization." "No trace that you could find," Korin corrected. "But absence of evidence is not evidence of absence." Rathkor slammed his fist down. "What are you saying, Elder? That the progenitors survived?" "I am saying that we never understood what happened to them," Korin replied. 200,000 years ago, the progenitors refused to obey council law. They expanded too quickly, claimed too many worlds, showed too little respect for the established order, just like the humans. So the council activated the nullifier and fired upon their homeworld. He paused, and in that silence, every counselor leaned forward. "The beam struck," Korin continued. "We detected massive energy releases, and then the progenitor homeworld simply vanished from our sensors. No debris, no radiation signature, nothing. We assumed they had been converted to energy and dispersed, but we never found a single atom of progenitor biology. Not in space, not in the asteroid belts, nowhere. They were destroyed," Velthos insisted. "Completely destroyed." "Or they evolved," Korin said quietly. The progenitors were experimenting with energy state transition. They believed that consciousness could exist without physical form. What if the nullifier's beam did not destroy them? What if it transformed them, forced them to ascend to a higher state of being? The chamber erupted again, but this time with fearful whispers rather than angry shouts. The idea was terrifying. The council's greatest weapon might not be a tool of destruction, but a tool of transcendence. Meanwhile, in human space, Jiwan was receiving reports from scout ships that had been watching the council's military movements. She stood in Admiral Hyun-woo's war room aboard Seoul's Pride, studying a tactical display that showed the entire sector. Captain Sunwoo Jang stood beside her, a young fleet officer with sharp instincts and a talent for finding things others missed. He pointed to a cluster of readings near the galactic core. "Commander, look at this," Sunwoo said. "These are energy signatures from the nullifier facility. The weapon fired, but the black hole that powers it is showing signs of instability." Jiwon leaned closer. "What kind of instability?" "It is hard to say," Sunwoo admitted. "But if I had to guess, I would say the discharge destabilized the containment field. That black hole has been captive for 200,000 years. It might not want to stay that way much longer." Admiral Hyunwoo joined them at the display. "If the black hole destabilizes, what happens?" "It could collapse into Hawking radiation and evaporate," Sunwoo said. "Or it could break containment and start consuming everything around it. Either way, the Council's weapon would be destroyed, and several of their core worlds are close enough to be threatened." Jiwon felt a plan forming in her mind. "How long before the black hole fails?" "Maybe a week," Sunwoo estimated. "Maybe less." "And where is the Council fleet right now?" Jiwon asked. Another officer brought up fleet positions. "They are scattered, some near their homeworlds, some near our colonies, but none near the nullifier facility. They seem to have abandoned it." Jiwon smiled slowly. "Then, we are going to do something the Council will never expect." "What is that?" Hyunwoo asked. "We are going to save their weapon," Jiwon said. Hyunwoo stared at her. "You want to help the people who just tried to kill us?" "I want to show them that humanity is better than they are," Jiwon replied. "And I want access to that facility. If we stabilize the black hole, we can study the technology, learn how it works, maybe even dismantle it so it can never be used again." "The Council will never allow that," Hyunwoo said. "They will if the alternative is losing several of their core worlds," Jiwon countered. "Captain Sunwoo, how many ships would we need to stabilize the black hole?" Sunwoo thought for a moment. "A small task force, maybe 10 ships with advanced sensor arrays and field generators. And we would need Dr. Yoonji and her team." "Make it happen," Jiwon ordered. "I want that task force ready to move in 6 hours." Back in the council chamber, Velthos had finally managed to restore order. He stood before Elder Korin, his voice carefully controlled. "Elder, even if what you say is true, it does not change our situation. The humans have defied us and survived. We cannot allow that to stand." "Why not?" Korin asked simply. The question seemed to confuse Velthos. "Because it undermines the Council's authority. Because it encourages other species to defy us. Because it changes the balance of power in the galaxy." "Perhaps the balance needed to change," Korin said. "For 200,000 years the Council has ruled through fear, through the threat of the nullifier. But fear is not wisdom, and power is not strength. The humans have shown us that." Rathakor stood up, his scales flushed dark red with rage. "The humans are a threat. They must be contained or destroyed." "They are the future," Korin said calmly. "Just as the progenitors were. And just as with the progenitors, we have a choice. We can try to destroy them and fail, or we can adapt to the new reality they represent." "I will not bow to humans," Rathakor snarled. "Then you will be left behind," Korin replied, "because they are not going to stop. They are not going to slow down, and they are certainly not going to obey out of fear anymore." A junior counselor received a message and stood up hastily. "High Arbiter, we are detecting human ships moving toward the nullifier facility." Every eye in the chamber turned to the tactical display. Sure enough, a small human fleet was accelerating toward the galactic core. "They are going to destroy it," Rathakor said. "They are going to take revenge." But Velthos was watching the human ships more carefully. Their formation was wrong for an attack. They were moving slowly, deliberately. What are they doing? He wondered aloud. The answer came a moment later when Jiwan's face appeared on the main display. She was transmitting from one of the human ships. "Hi, Arbiter Velthos," Jiwan said formally. "I am Commander Jiwan Kim of the Human Defense Fleet. We have detected critical instability in your nullifier facility. The black hole is failing. If it collapses or breaks containment, it will threaten multiple council worlds." Velthos felt his blood run cold. "You are lying." "Check your own sensors," Jiwan said calmly. The council technicians worked frantically, and within moments they confirmed what Jiwan had said. The black hole was indeed unstable. The weapon that had kept the galaxy in line for 200 millennia was failing. "We are prepared to render assistance," Jiwan continued. "My ships carry the technology needed to stabilize the containment field. We can save your facility and protect your worlds." "Why would you help us?" Velthos demanded. "We tried to destroy you." Jiwan's expression was unreadable. "Because that is what humans do. We help. Even when it is hard. Even when it is not deserved. We help because it is the right thing to do." Rathkor roared. "It is a trick. They want access to the facility." "Of course we do," Jiwan admitted freely. "In exchange for our help, we want full access to study the technology. We want to understand how it works. And we want a voice in deciding if it should ever be used again." "Unacceptable," Rathkor said. But Velthos was thinking, if the humans were telling the truth, the Council had no choice. Their own ships were too far away to help in time, and they did not have the technology to stabilize a failing black hole. "If we refuse your help?" Velthos asked. "Then the nullifier fails," Jiwan said simply, "and you lose not just your weapon but possibly several worlds. The choice is yours, High Arbiter, but choose quickly. We estimate you have less than 72 hours. Velthos looked at the countdown on his display and felt a bitter irony in the timing. Captain Sunwoo Jang stood on the bridge of his ship, the Incheon runner, and stared at the massive structure ahead. The nullifier facility was even more impressive up close, a vast ring of dark metal surrounding a point of absolute darkness. The captive black hole sat at the center of it all, invisible but felt, like a wound in space itself. "Sensor readings confirm instability," his science officer reported. "The containment field is fluctuating. If it fails, the black hole will either evaporate in a burst of radiation or start consuming the facility." "How long do we have?" Sunwoo asked. 48 hours, maybe less." Sunwoo activated his communicator to the rest of the human task force. 10 ships had made the journey, each carrying specialists and equipment. Dr. Yoonji Choi was aboard the lead science vessel, already analyzing the facility's systems. "Dr. Choi," Sunwoo said, "what do you need from us?" Yoonji's voice came through, tense but focused. "We need to establish a stable zero-point field around the black hole. The same technology we use to refract the beam can be adapted to reinforce the containment. But we need to interface directly with the facility's systems, and they are 200,000 years old. Nothing uses these protocols anymore." "Can you crack them?" Sunwoo asked. "Give me 6 hours," Yoonji replied. While the human ships worked, the council chamber was in emergency session. Velthos had called every councillor back, and the debate raged for hours. Some wanted to accept human help. Others insisted it was a trap. Rathkor demanded they send the council fleet to destroy the human ships before they could steal the facility's secrets. But Elder Koran had shared his theory about the progenitors, and it had shaken even the most hardline councillors. If the nullifier could not truly destroy advanced civilizations but only transform them, then what was the point of maintaining it? "We should negotiate," said a councillor from a peaceful aquatic species. "The humans have already proven they can defend against the weapon. Keeping it serves no purpose except to make more enemies." "It serves to remind the galaxy who rules," Rathkor insisted. And who does rule? Koran asked quietly. We fired our ultimate weapon and it failed. The humans survived. In the eyes of every species watching this, the Council has already lost its absolute authority. The question now is whether we acknowledge that reality or pretend it does not exist. Velthos knew Koran was right. The moment Earth survived the nullifier, the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. Denying it would only make the Council look weak and desperate. What do the humans truly want? Velthos asked. Commander Kim said she wants access to the technology and a voice in how it is used, but what does that mean in practice? A communication came in from Ji-won, as if she had been waiting for the question. Her face appeared on the display, calm and professional. High Arbiter, Ji-won said. I think it is time we spoke directly, not through threats or ultimatums, but as equals. Equals? Rathkor snarled. You are one species among 47. And yet we survived what none of you could, Ji-won replied. We adapted. We overcame. We did in 300 years what your civilizations could not do in 200,000. So yes, Counselor Rathkor, we are equals. The sooner you accept that, the sooner we can move forward. Velthos raised a hand to silence Rathkor. What exactly are you proposing? Commander Kim. A new arrangement, Ji-won said. Humanity gains a seat on the Council. We become the 48th member species. In exchange, we help you stabilize the nullifier facility, and then we work together to decommission it. Decommission? Several counselors exclaimed at once. The weapon is obsolete, Ji-won said bluntly. It does not work on species advanced enough to defend against it, and using it on less advanced species is nothing but genocide. It has outlived its purpose. It kept the peace for 200,000 years, Velthos said. It kept the fear alive for 200,000 years, Ji-won corrected. But fear is not peace. Fear is just delayed conflict. Real peace comes from cooperation, mutual respect, and shared goals. That is what humanity offers. Elder Koran moved to the center of the chamber. Before the Council makes any decision, I must share something I have kept hidden for longer than most civilizations have existed. Every counselor turned to stare at the ancient being. When the nullifier fired on the progenitor homeworld, Koran continued, I was there. I watched from an observation ship, and in the final moment before they vanished, the progenitors sent a message, a single transmission on a quantum frequency that only I could detect. What did it say? Velthos asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Koran's crystalline form seemed to glow with inner light. It said, the inheritors will be those who master not weapons, but the courage to move forward. We do not end. We evolve. And when the next ones come, do not repeat our mistakes. Do not fear them. Join them. The silence in the chamber was absolute. You hid this for 200,000 years? Rathkor demanded. I hid it because the Council was not ready to hear it, Koran said. But now you have no choice. The humans are the next ones. They are the inheritors, and we must decide if we will join them or be left behind. Velthos looked at Ji-won's image on the display. If we agree to your terms, what guarantee do we have that humanity will not seek to dominate the Council? You have the same guarantee we have that you will not try to kill us again, Ji-won said. None. We have to trust each other. That is how trust works. At the nullifier facility, Dr. Yunji had made a breakthrough. She had cracked the ancient protocols and interfaced human systems with the facility's controls. Now her team was working to establish the zero-point field around the black hole. Containment at 60%, a technician reported. 70%, 80%. Sunwoo watched the readings carefully. How long will it hold? Indefinitely, if we maintain it, Yunji replied. But this is just a temporary fix. To permanently stabilize the black hole, we would need to rebuild the entire containment system. That would take years. Or we could let it evaporate safely, Sunwoo suggested. Yunji looked at him sharply, then smiled. You know, that is actually a brilliant idea. If we carefully manage the Hawking radiation release, the black hole could evaporate over the course of a few decades. No explosion, no danger, just a slow, controlled dispersal. And the weapon would be gone forever, Sun Wu said. The council would never agree to that, Yunji said. But she was wrong. 6 hours later, Velthos contacted Jiwan directly. The council has voted. We accept your terms. Humanity will be granted a seat on the council. We will work together to decommission the nullifier. And we will establish a new framework for galactic cooperation based on mutual respect rather than fear. Jiwan allowed herself a small smile. Thank you, High Arbiter. I think this is the beginning of something better for all of us. Perhaps, Velthos said. But understand, Commander Kim, many on the council still do not trust humanity. You will face opposition at every turn. We are used to that, Jiwan replied. But we are also very good at proving people wrong. The decommissioning of the nullifier took 6 months. Human and alien engineers worked side by side, carefully managing the black hole's evaporation. It was delicate work, requiring constant monitoring and adjustment. But it succeeded. On the day the black hole finally evaporated into its last burst of Hawking radiation, Jiwan stood with Velthos at an observation post, watching the final moments of the galaxy's most feared weapon. Do you regret it? Jiwan asked. Giving up the nullifier? Velthos was quiet for a long moment. I regret that we needed it in the first place. I regret that we used it on the progenitors. But no, I do not regret letting it go. Fear is exhausting, Commander. I am glad to be done with it. Jiwan nodded. So are we? A year later, the first joint human-alien colony was established in the Outer Rim. The planet was called New Accord, and it was governed by a council of both humans and aliens working together. Jiwan's sister Mina led the scientific research station there, working alongside alien scientists to develop new technologies that combined the best of multiple civilizations. Jiwan herself took her seat on the Galactic Council, representing humanity. The first session was difficult. Many counselors still viewed humans with suspicion. Rathkor, in particular, made no secret of his distrust. But over time, things changed. Humans proved themselves to be cooperative, innovative, and genuinely committed to the good of the galaxy. They shared their technology freely. They mediated disputes between other species. They built bridges where there had only been walls. 2 years after Earth survived the nullifier, a new crisis emerged in the outer galaxy. A rogue AI collective had begun consuming entire systems, and the Council's traditional methods were not working. It was Jiwan who proposed the solution, a joint task force combining human adaptability with alien experience. The mission succeeded, and the AI collective was peacefully integrated into galactic society rather than destroyed. It was hailed as a triumph of the new Council approach. On the 5th anniversary of humanity joining the Council, Jiwan returned to Earth for a celebration. She stood in Seoul's Central Plaza, the same place where people had gathered to watch the nullifier's aurora. Now it was filled with humans and aliens together, celebrating their shared future. Mina found her in the crowd and hugged her tight. Remember when you told me it would work? When you said we would turn their weapon into a light show? Jiwan laughed. I remember being terrified that I was wrong. But you were not wrong, Mina said. You were exactly right. We took their fear and turned it into beauty. We took their weapon and turned it into peace. That is the most human thing we could have done. Jiwan looked up at the night sky, where ships from 100 different worlds moved peacefully through the darkness. We did not do it alone. It took all of us, human and alien together. But we started it, Mina said. When you looked at their Doomsday weapon and called it a cute light show, you showed the galaxy that humans do not scare easily. And that changed everything. Jiwan smiled. Maybe it did. But the real change was not in making them fear us. It was in making them see us as partners instead of threats. Above them, a ship from Elder Corran's species descended toward the spaceport, its hull reflecting the city lights. The ancient being was visiting Earth for the first time, wanting to see the world that had changed the galaxy. Jiwan's communicator chimed. It was Velthos. "Commander Kim, the Council has a proposal for you." "What kind of proposal?" Jiwan asked. "We would like humanity to lead the next major exploration initiative," Velthos said, "to venture beyond the known galaxy and see what lies in the darkness between galaxies. Your species has shown us that unknowns should be embraced, not feared." Jiwan felt a thrill of excitement. "When do we start?" "Whenever you are ready," Velthos replied. "We have waited 200,000 years. We can wait a little longer for the right partners." Jiwan looked at her sister, at the celebrating crowd, at the ships in the sky, and felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Humanity had not just survived the Council's ultimate weapon, they had transformed it, and in doing so, they had transformed the galaxy itself. The future was uncertain, as all futures are. But for the first time in 200,000 years, the galaxy faced that uncertainty together, as equals, as partners, as friends. And it had all started with a human looking at a doomsday weapon and calling it a cute light show.